Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has taken the internet by storm, breaking the record for the most played fighter game of all time, surpassing titles like Tekken and Street Fighter. And it did this in the first week of release. But why is it so popular? Is the game actually that good, or is it all hype? And will it lose its player count in the upcoming weeks? Welcome to Trash or Play, where I play a game for 10 hours or more and give you the most brutally honest review on the internet, covering all of these topics of the game, so that you can decide if you want to spend your time and or money on it. I will also teach you everything that I've learned about the game, so if you do decide to purchase it, you can get a head start. And Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, you're up to bat. Right off the bat, this game is extremely visually appealing. The graphics are insane and the abilities look amazing. Anyone who is a Dragon Ball fan will have a field day with the way this game looks. Not only do the maps and characters look great, but every single character has their own unique abilities that come straight from the manga and anime, which are animated beautifully. Playing this game makes you feel like you're a real Saiyan battling for your life, and I'm here for it. Usually in games like this, when you get into high-speed battles, it can feel and look a little choppy. But in Sparking Zero, well, that's not the case. This game is seamless. The graphics hold up regardless of what you're doing, giving it a nice polished look. When you go along the story mode and run into certain battles, Goku vs Frieza, the most iconic anime battle in history, that's when the graphics really shine. It's like you were in the anime, battling to save planet Earth. And let me tell you what, it's simply amazing. In terms of the visuals, I haven't found a single thing that isn't phenomenal, giving Sparking Zero a really good start. Now the mechanics in this game, well, that's where it gets serious. Although this game can be picked up by anyone, and you can just button mash your way to victory in a lot of the story mode fights, if you truly want to get good and unlock all the potential it has to offer, you have a long road ahead of you, which is awesome as it caters to both casual players and the tryhards. Like any fighting game, you can just spam your hit button and chain a bunch of attacks. However, if you take some time to understand how it actually works, you can combo with different buttons to create stronger attacks. And at the end of your combos, you can heavy hit, either high, middle, or low. And because there are different options, you can't just spam your block button. You have to block in the right direction or you're gonna get hit, adding a layer of complexity to the game. But that's just scratching the surface, so let's dive a little deeper into the mechanics. Sometimes you're gonna be getting your ass whooped like Boo did when Vegito popped up. But don't worry, when this happens, you can counter it. However, you have to time your counter perfectly when an attack is landing. Again, you can't just spam buttons. And you do this by clicking X and up at the same time when someone is hitting you to perform a super counter. But if you miss the timing, GG's brother, you're cooked. On top of this, you can revenge counter by clicking in right stick at the proper time. If an opponent revenge counters you, you can press B to fully counter that, and you can also Z counter, which is when you teleport behind the enemy and hit them. However, when you do this, your enemy can Z counter you, and this can go on as long as you both have ki and you're hitting your timing, making the fights extremely intense and entertaining. But do keep in mind, all of these counters have to be timed perfectly or they won't work. And on top of Z counters, you can hit B to activate your perception, and this can be used to counter a multitude of different things. If you time it perfectly with an attack, you can enter Sonic Sway, an animation where you dodge a bunch of punches, then smack the shit out of your opponent. Although at surface level this game is simple, to truly play it properly you need to spend a lot of time practicing your timings and button combos, adding an extreme level of difficulty to the game. The movement is extremely satisfying. You can perform a dragon dash by clicking right trigger and A at the same time, which allows you to fly quickly towards your enemies. You also have a short dash you can perform by clicking A and left stick forward to close the distance for a quick attack, and you have your Z burst dash. That allows you to quickly get behind your opponent no matter the distance, which is extremely powerful. To do this, you just need to click right trigger and A 2 times in a row. And lastly, if you are in Sparky mode, which is what happens when you fully charge up your ki, you can do something called a special dragon dash. To perform this movement, you need to hold down R2 and hit X, then continue to hold R2 and tap R1 repeatedly. Each one of these movement techs has to be used at the proper time for it to become effective, leaving tons of room for different ways to outplay your enemy with your movement. However, there is one part of the gameplay that can be extremely frustrating. Sometimes you will get continuously spammed from behind, making you feel like Yamcha if you got thrown into the tournament of power. And trust me, it's fucking annoying. However, you can stop this with a perfectly timed Z counter if you were good at the game, so it's not really a mechanical issue, it's a skill issue. Because there are so many different mechanics that rely on perfect timing, I would highly suggest you utilize the battle training part of this game so you can get a better grasp of how to play instead of constantly button mashing. Another thing to note is how important your ki is, as well as your stock points. In order to do most of your movements and counters, you need ki, and if you don't have enough ki, you won't be able to block or move quickly, so strategically charging it is necessary. When it comes to your stock points, those are used to transform or use secondary skills with your D-pad, things like instant transmission or solar flare. They can also be used to quickly get into sparking mode. Each one of these abilities will have a certain amount of stock points necessary to use them, so you need to make sure in the top left corner you have the right amount when using the skills. Each ability will cost a certain amount of stock points to use, and your stock points can be gained over time passively or by hitting your enemy, so always make sure you're keeping an eye on them and use them sparingly. After sinking over 20 hours into the game, I can confidently say the mechanics are amazing and the fights are an absolute blast. And the coolest part of any Dragon Ball Z fighting game is the clashes. You can get into straight up throwdowns, mashing X as fast as you can, or you can battle it out with your ultimates to see who the true Saiyan warrior is. Something that may annoy you though when getting into clashes is getting stunned due to a lack of ki. When in your clashes, you can hit R2 to boost your attacks, but only do this if you have enough ki to spare. If you don't, this will always cause you to stun yourself, so be mindful of when you're hitting R2. This game has an insane amount of mechanics that can make every fight fresh, fun, and unique. However, because there are so many unique mechanics, this game could seem a little overwhelming to new or casual players. Something that a lot of people have been complaining about is the difficulty of the game.
Dude, there's no fucking way, bro.
But if I'm being fair, it's really not that hard unless you were just trying to get away with constantly button mashing. If you take a little bit of time and learn some counters and some moves, the story mode is very easy to complete. However, if you are stubborn and you don't learn anything, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yo, what's good, gamers? If you're enjoying this video so far, consider hitting that sub button. It would mean a lot if you did. If not, no worries. Much love, guys.
When it comes to storytelling in Sparking Zero, you will either love it or hate it. The game allows you to play from a select few characters' perspectives and takes you through the storyline of Dragon Ball Z and Super. While you're playing, there will be cutscenes that help the story move along. Most of them are in a picture style, while some are fully animated. This is something I personally wasn't the biggest fan of, especially when they did not give enough emphasis on some of the most iconic parts of Dragon Ball. Another thing that was annoying is hearing the dialogue in the background while you were fighting.
You got what you wanted, and I'll never forgive
I understand it's to move the story along, but it wasn't necessary, especially when they would talk like you have someone helping you in a fight when you don't.
17 to be absorbed.
16?
Yeah.
You're actually gonna fight too?
Not to mention, sometimes you would win a fight, then it would cut to your character being defeated. And again, I get that it moves the story along, but it was just kinda jarring and weird. I personally feel like they could have done a lot better job of animating the story and the cutscenes. They could have cut out all the narration and added more cutscenes to move the story along, or at least had the other characters fighting beside you to add to the story instead of just listening to them talk in the background. And those are some things that I really didn't enjoy about the story mode. A very cool addition they have though is the sparking endings. Although there is a base storyline you follow, depending on how quickly you beat someone or the decisions you make along the way, you can change the ending of the game. Now, I didn't know this and was extremely disappointed in how short Goku's storyline was, as I beat the androids and it seemed like the story ended there. But in reality, I had just finished the sparking ending and didn't realize it. And there was a lot more to do in Goku's saga, thank God. I thought that it was awesome you were able to make certain decisions or beat certain people that would change what happened in the Dragon Ball timeline. And you also got the option to play out the normal story which pretty much followed Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Super to a T. Another cool addition was being able to play out the game from the villain's perspective. Frieza is one of my favorite characters, and the fact I could play through his story was awesome. I did notice that the villain arcs were harder than the heroes, which makes sense, as you usually had to fight multiple people with one health bar, just like they did in the anime. There are a lot of cool alternate endings in the game, and I won't spoil them for you. Just know that wherever you see a crossroads symbol, you can change the direction of the story and run into a new timeline. So look out for those and try to follow what it says to unlock that path. Usually you'll have to win or lose within a certain amount of time, or make a decision in a cutscene, but each one is different, so make sure you read what it says before continuing. All in all, the story mode is awesome and very nostalgic for a Dragon Ball fan like myself. However, there were some parts I was not the biggest fan of, and I feel like they could have done a lot better, as I mentioned earlier. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has 181 playable characters. However, that includes different transformations. In reality, there are 89 different heroes spanning from Dragon Ball Z to GT and Super. Almost every notable character is in the game, aside from a couple which will most likely be released as a DLC later down the road. Because this is a fighter game, there isn't much variety in game modes. You have your classic story mode, online and offline battles. However, Sparking Zero added custom battles, which is an awesome addition. Essentially, you can create a battle scenario with whatever rules and customizations you would like. You can set up different bosses, characters, rules, or timelines to spice things up. You can play these battles yourself or post them online for others to try, adding some more depth and variety to the game. Probably the most notable and shocking thing about this game is the lack of microtransactions. It isn't forcing them down your throat, and you can unlock everything just by playing the game. Each battle you get into gives you Zennies, and it also helps you complete missions for Zeno and Whis. And when you complete the missions, you unlock characters, emblems, emotes, skins, and extra Zennies. Now, Zennies are important because they allow you to buy everything in the game, meaning there is no need for microtransactions, which is an absolute W in my books, especially with the price point of this game. Another thing you can do in this game, which I've always wished I could do in real life, is gather the Dragon Balls. These will allow you to make wishes to unlock other things. In order to get the regular Dragon Balls, you just need to complete Whis' missions. For the Purunga Dragon Balls, you need to play offline battles, and if you want to get the Super Dragon Balls, you need to beat either Goku, Jiren, or Trunks' story mode, and complete every alternate ending as well. This gives you plenty of things to grind for. A big reason on why you want to get as much Zenny as possible is to buy capsules for your characters. In battle mode, you can equip capsules to give your characters certain stat boosts. This is very important, especially if you're playing ranked, as you can even out the playing field against stronger characters. Since Sparking Zero is lore accurate and certain characters are much better than the others. Speaking about online play, there are a couple different battles you can do. You can do single battles, DP battles, or tournament mode. If you're doing the DP battles, which is the most common ranked playlist, you only get a certain amount of points to build your team, meaning you can't just stack it with OP characters. So capsules are extremely important to make sure all of your characters are as strong as possible. Of course, if you have them turned off, they don't matter. Now, there is something that this game is lacking, and that is character customization. Instead of adding multiple cool skins for each character, they went with only skins from the manga and anime, which is understandable and pretty cool, but a lot of people want unique skins and want to be able to swap skins between characters. I personally think it would be cool to add more skins to the game, however that may lead to microtransactions, so if they do add them, hopefully it's an update, not in a battle pass or a store. Now, for all you serious gamers, there is a theater mode. This allows you to watch back your fights instead of having to record some VODs, so you can see where you need to improve, or you can just save games that you thought were awesome and watch them back later. Now, even though Sparking Zero has a ton of different things you can do, there is one huge problem I see with the game, and that is its replayability. Unless you're a huge Dragon Ball fan or love fighting games, I don't see you being able to play this game for a long period of time. It is fun and there is lots to do, but it gets repetitive. Although that's just kind of how fighting games are. So if you're into that, you'll love it. If not, you may want to think about it before purchasing. And now that we covered almost everything about the game, let's talk about the overall game quality. And it's an easy 10 out of 10. We have finally gotten a game that is fully finished on release. There are no bugs, no issues, no fucking nothing. And let me tell you what, we haven't had something like that in a long time. So kudos to Chunsoft and Bandai for creating this masterpiece. You know a game is made well when there's nothing to say about the overall quality other than they did an amazing job. The game is $94 Canadian for the base edition, $120 for the deluxe, and $130 for the ultimate. And that's pretty pricey. But is the game worth the price? Well, yes and no. It really depends on what you're buying the game for. If you just want to play the story mode, then maybe not. It only took me about 8 to 10 hours to beat the game, so I don't think the story mode alone is worth the money. However, if you want a game that you can play with your friends or online with randoms and have an absolute blast, then yes, this game is worth the money. Even though ranked is extremely hard, the unranked battles are amazing, custom battles are awesome, and playing against your friends, well, that's what this game is all about. So is it a pass or is it a play? Well, this game is most definitely a play from me. If you're a fan of Dragon Ball or you're looking for a fun new fighter game to play, I would highly recommend Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. And also, if you guys have any games you'd like me to try out and review, please leave them in the comment section down below. And if you're interested in seeing me try to beat Elden Ring as my very first RPG game, go ahead and check out this video next.